If you're out there, please chime in to let me know that everything is working. Starting a tad bit early to make sure everything is okay and working. Hi, Misty. Thank you for joining in and thank you for letting me know that everything is live. It's me, Amanda, with Once in a Wild, and we're back again here Monday, our new starting time at 3:30 Central Time, and I'm so glad for you guys joining us today. Hi, Lauren. Lauren was here before on one of our live streams. Let's check everything, make sure everything looks okay. Starting a little bit early to make sure everybody can join on in. Once again, this is Amanda here with Once in a Wild, and we are an animal encounter company. It looks like I'm jiggling the laptop a little bit. Let me scoot that on back. This is Once in a Wild, and we are a mobile zoo. In normal circumstance, we would be bringing the zoo to you live and in person for events, parties, classroom presentations, educational talks, all kinds of things, animal therapy even. And now that we cannot come to you in person because of the current circumstances, we are coming to you virtually instead via Facebook Live. Now, someone says it's a little blurry, but I'm also getting a looking good. So hopefully I'm looking good. Let me know if there's any technical difficulties. We had the hair out of place. We had a little bit of technical difficulties getting started. So please let me know if there's anything going on. We're all learning. You know, bandwidth is bandwidth and technology is technology. So we're doing our best. So Lauren says it looks good now. Excellent. So thank you for joining in, and we hope we get some participants in this animal encounter. Now today we're going to be learning about some other different type of animals than we've learned about before. So our first live stream was all about reptiles. Our second live stream was a little bit of mix of birds and mammals. And today's live stream is going to be something very, very different. Today we're going to be learning about invertebrates. Now, invertebrates are actually one of my favorite animals to talk about. They're very, very different than most animals. And invertebrates include animals like spiders, insects, cephalopods, which are like octopus and things like that. And one of my very favorites, let's see if she's in the mood to come down or come up and see us, I should say. Now, sometimes these animals might have a bad day. Oh, no, she's doing okay now. Everything is new to these animals, so please be patient. We're learning, they're learning. So this here is Xena. Can you guys see her? She looks huge on camera there. And she is pretty large. You can see her relative size to my hand. This is Xena, the African flat rock scorpion. And she is an invertebrate, right? And she's actually an arachnid as well. So what makes an arachnid? You guys might know arachnids are also spiders. That's another example of arachnids. So insects, for example, have 3 body parts and 6 legs. Whereas an arachnid, like a scorpion or a spider, for example, they're going to have 8 legs and 2 body parts. So they have a cephalothorax, which is going to be kind of like their head and middle part, kind of like their head section, if you would. And then the rest of their body is called the thorax. And for the tail on a scorpion, there is a special name, and I've actually written it down because, you guys, I'm not an entomologist. I'm just a person who really, really appreciates invertebrates and insects and all kinds of cool creepy crawlies. But the other name is called the metasoma, and that is going to be what their tail is officially called in science. Can you see her tail there? If I put my hand there, can you see it? It's curled around her back there. So somebody's asking, how is he so docile? Well, Xena here is actually a female, by the way, and that's okay. They don't really look much different between male and female. There are some subtle differences if you know what to look for, but they are not really a domestic species, right? They're still a wild animal, but I'm not harming her in any way. So she's also very used to being held and kind of gets used to these encounters and just kind of sitting on my hand. And they kind of learn to just relax. So all animals can be trained, even arachnids like spiders and scorpions, they can be trained to relax. Now there's also some other some other species that might be a little less inclined to just sit still and be held and be very patient, like Xena, the African flat rock scorpion. That's an excellent question. So someone is chiming in as well. Cedric is back again on our live stream. Says, scorpions are big. I thought they were really small, like house spiders. So some scorpions are small and some scorpions are big. This here is actually one of the largest type of scorpions in the world, the African flat rock scorpion. Another really large species is the emperor scorpion, which some of you may be familiar with. Emperor scorpions are used a lot in really cool movies and appearances because they look really, really impressive. Now you might be wondering, why in the world is she not stinging me? She's not pinching me, nothing like that. I'm not getting injured. Now this type of scorpion does have venom, just like all scorpions. Scorpions have tails, the metasoma, if you will, and that metasoma does have a stinger on the end. You can probably see that stinger kind of curled up and around. It is there. See if I can bring it up. There it is. And she has little hairs as well. And that stinger is full of venom. All scorpions and all spiders are venomous, but they may not be having significant venom to humans. So that means that she is harmless to us. So if she were to sting me, which I have been stung by the species before, it is very, very mild. So it is much more mild than like an ant bite. In fact, it's kind of like an ant bite that doesn't really stick around. It doesn't hurt you for a long time like an ant bite does, and it doesn't really get itchy for very long. It gets itchy for a little bit, and then it goes away, and then you're okay. And Christy says, is he really alive? Yes, she is alive. Might be able to get her to move just a little bit. See how she's moving a little bit? They don't move a whole lot. They aren't warm-blooded like us, so they reserve their energy, but she is alive. There she goes. She's moving a little bit to get her balance a little bit. She's pretty good about hanging on to surfaces like my hand. Makes her a really cool animal ambassador to show off, and that size is really impressive, I think. So they are alive. They don't move as much as like a mammal or a bird does. And this type of species is an African flat rock scorpion. You can see how flat they are, flat rock, and they are from Africa. And these guys will kind of dwell in more warm areas in South Africa, kind of like a desert or a scrub region. And they're going to be a nocturnal animal. Most scorpions are actually nocturnal. I'm gonna reposition her there for my comfort, actually. And these guys are nocturnal predators. So they're going to sleep all day long, and that comes in handy when you live in a very hot desert because it is really, really warm where they live in South Africa, especially during the day when the sun's out. So what they'll do is all day long, they'll sleep underneath rocks and underneath fallen logs, etc. But these guys are called the African flat rock scorpion because they're known to be able to kind of flatten their body really, really flat and be able to go underneath a flat rock and disappear to anybody who's trying to see them. Now, why would they want to do that? Number one, it is really hot during the day. And so they want to make sure and not overheat. And another reason is because of predators. So there are less predators that can see them during the nighttime. So they're going to come out in the night, and they're also predators. Arachnids are predators. Well, most arachnids are predators. I think maybe all. That'll be something to look up. And again, I'm always learning, so I'm not sure. But I know that spiders and scorpions are predators, and they eat other animals. So at night, she's going to come out when it's nice and cool out, and it's more comfortable for her to not be too overheated. And they're going to start hunting. They're going to hunt things like insects, maybe spiders. This type of species is actually big enough to eat small mammals and lizards and things like that. And what they're going to do is kind of use their long pinchers, their strong pinchers, long pinchers, to be able to grab onto prey. So first of all, they're going to want to find their prey, right? So they're walking around. They have eyes. You can see their eyes. Actually, you can see her eyes really well right there on the top of her head. Sorry if I'm shaking a little bit. I'm not nervous. It's just hard to hold my hand up forever like this. build up my muscles. So she's got two little eyes on the top of her head, and she's actually got extra eyes in the front of her head too to help her see a little bit. But their vision is not very good. It's mostly for shadows and movement. She's also got all kinds of little hairs on her body. You can probably see them. So mammals are not the only animals with hair. Scorpions and spiders have them too. And those hairs are going to help her, those hairs are going to help her to sense movement around her. And they are so sensitive that she can even sense movement in the air. So if she's maybe hunting out at night in the desert of Africa and a moth flies overhead like that, she can actually sense that moth in the air. Now, whether or not she catches it or not is probably a buildup of individual skill, right? She might have to practice that kind of thing. But normally they're going to prey upon terrestrial insects. So if she's hanging out on the ground and running around and looking for prey, and a bug runs by in front of her, and those hairs are triggered, and she feels that bug running by, she's going to reach out and grab it with her great big claws. And usually for this species, that's enough to do away with her prey and get it ready for eating. Now, once they're ready to eat it, she's going to grab it and kind of just start eating it. And what they do is they have really neat mouth parts. And I've also written down the name of their mouth parts. It's chelicerae is the technical name for them. And those mouth parts kind of look like little claws too. It's hard to see. Forgive me, I'm learning all this technical stuff. So getting towards the camera is really hard to see. But they have little mouth parts that kind of crunch up their food. And as they're doing that, they're going to use their saliva and actually break down their food as they're doing that. And eventually they'll just kind of eat whatever they've caught. Now for this species, like I said, they don't usually use their venom that much. That tail does have venom, but they have very mild venom. So a good rule of thumb when you're looking at scorpions, if they have large claws and a small, skinny, or not very impressive tail, her tail is really long, but it's not very fat. So not having a fat tail is going to tell you that she doesn't have a lot of venom in her tail. So her claws are going to be her main way of, number one, catching her food and subduing the food and doing away with the prey before eating it. It's a nice way of saying that, right? And another way, what was I saying? So that's going to be enough for this species and species with larger claws. Another way she can use her claws is for defense. So if you were to go after the scorpion, I'm not going to do that, obviously. I don't want to make her upset. But if I were a predator going after the scorpion, say it's a meerkat. Meerkats are a big predator for these guys, a very, very common predator for them. Meerkats are actually immune to a lot of venom, including scorpion venom. But this scorpion has very mild venom anyway. But if a meerkat's coming up to this scorpion to come and take a bite, they can use their claws to try to pinch and maybe scare off the predator. And maybe that will be enough. Now, if they feel even more threatened, they might use their tail to sting as well. But like I said, this type of scorpion has very mild venom. So if you look at a scorpion with large pinchers, let me try to readjust her so you can see her a little better. She has large pinchers, right? Those are going to tell you that her tail doesn't have very much venom. That's a good rule of thumb. A scorpion with very, very slender pinchers and very slender claws is going to tell you that they have more venom. And typically, scorpions that have slender claws have a fat tail, which is very, very dangerous. Now, speaking of dangerous, there are a few scorpions that can harm a human. But out of the over 1,500 to 1,600 species that are around the world, in fact, they're actually found on every continent except for one. And I'll let you guess what that might be. Scorpions are found all over the world except for one continent for a very good reason. But they're found all over the place, and there are over 1,600 species that are known to man. And out of all of those, only 2% are dangerous to humans. So a good kind of rule, if you would, when you're out in your own backyard or when you're camping or in your own house, if you see a scorpion, please leave it alone. We don't want to be holding them like I'm doing here with Xena. Xena is a different species than what you would find here in North America, of course, and not dangerous to humans. So this type of scorpion out there in Africa wouldn't be any significant danger at all to a human. I'm having some more people sign in. Hello, nice to see everyone. Let's see, let's see, this is a good question. From Becky, how is she able to stick to your hand while the hand is held straight up? Does she have sticky feet? Yes, she does. So she's got little itty bitty claws on the end of her feet that kind of help her to stick to flat surfaces. In fact, this type of scorpion can actually climb up a wall a little bit. Now, the bigger they get, the harder it's going to be for them to climb because of body weight, right? This is one of the largest type of scorpions in the entire world. So they are pretty hefty for a scorpion. Excellent question. Is the bite Venomous to other insects or prey. Now, her bite has absolutely no venom. So that mouth, oh, that's a good shot of her mouth. Hello. She's like, come at me, bro. Just kidding. So her bite actually isn't venomous at all, but that tail does have venom. All scorpions have venom. So yes, it would be a little bit significant to prey, perhaps, like a small insect, but I've never seen Xena in the time that I've had her use her tail for subduing her prey. So for this species, they mainly just use their claws. Their claws are more than enough to subdue their prey. And you corrected yourself. I mean her stinger. Very, very good, Lauren. Oh, I love this question. Hi, Nick. How's it going? It's a good friend of mine. Thank you for joining in. So Xena here is actually a mother scorpion, and she is a mother of 39 babies. Can you imagine having 39 babies at once? And scorpions in general can actually have more than that. It can have up to 100 babies, depending on the species. And I'm not sure about this species, what the maximum is. I do know that 39 is quite a large litter, I've been told. I was kind of hoping it would be an even 40, but you know, it is what it is. So 39 babies were born. They are live born. So when mom is ready to give birth, she gives birth to live babies. Those babies are white and soft. And then in a few days, they're going to harden. And it's about like 5 to 6 days, maybe more, depending on circumstances and individuals, but they're going to harden and turn dark, and that's when they start kind of eating on their own and things like that. And eventually, depending on the species, they'll leave mom. Now, what mom scorpion does, she's a really, really good mother. They will actually carry their babies around. Hi! They will carry their babies around on their back. So as soon as those live babies are born, mom will have them come all on her back, and they're going to hang out together in a little group together, kind of huddling together for safety. And that's going to keep those babies safe while they're hardening their exoskeleton. Because, of course, these are invertebrates. They don't have any backbone or bones at all. So they have to wait for their exoskeleton to harden. It takes a little while for a scorpion. So at that age, they are very, very vulnerable to predators, especially. And to the elements too. So mom is going to carry them around on her back. Imagine carrying around almost 40 babies on your back, or even up to 100, I guess, for other species, and take care of them and feed them until they're ready to go off on their own. And that's all going to depend on the species as well, how long they're going to stay with mom. So Xena here did have 39 babies, and I actually happen to have one of her babies here today for you guys to meet. The baby's about a year old now. Pretty exciting. It's still very, very small because this is a very long-lived and slow-growing animal. These guys can live into their 30s or more, and they grow very, very slow. And like all invertebrates, they have to molt to be able to grow. So they have to take all of their exoskeleton off and basically start again with their exoskeleton, and that's how they grow. They don't the exoskeleton doesn't grow with them, so they have to molt. Kind of like a snake shedding its skin, but a lot more extreme. Now, these guys, as scorpions, will molt a few times in their lifetime because they grow so slowly. But when they're babies, they're going to molt a lot more often because they're growing a lot faster. And once they reach maturity, they only molt about maybe 4 or 5 more times, maybe more, depending on their age and their life. So not very often at all. Now, I'm sure you guys would like to ask more questions. Let me see. Someone's asking, what's her name? So Xena is her name. And we're big Alien fans out here. A lot of people ask me if it's Xena Warrior Princess, but she's actually Xena after a xenomorph. So, but since she's a girl, it's Xena instead of Xeno. So to me, she looks like a face hugger, if you know what that is, and you're a nerd like we are. So yeah, that's her name, Xena. So someone guessed correctly as to which continent these guys are not found on. So just to reiterate, scorpions are found on every continent but one. And you are right, Cedric, it is Antarctica because it is so cold, and really not very many animals live in Antarctica in general. All right, thank you for sharing, Jamie. Are scorpions soft after they molt? Yes, they are. So any exoskeleton that comes off of an invertebrate, after that happens, rather, they're going to be very soft, very vulnerable, because their exoskeleton is not hard yet. So yes, when they come out, they're very, very soft. And they usually will go hide from predators and from anything. And you want to actually leave them alone when that happens and let them recoup a little bit, because it's a lot for them to go through. But yes, they do come out soft after they molt, just like any insect or arachnid does. Very good question. I'm sure you guys would love to see her child. So again, this is Xena. We're going to say see you later to Xena. She's done an excellent job being a great animal ambassador for scorpions. And by the way, I do not recommend you guys going out into your backyard or camping or anything and picking up any scorpions, because some of them here in the United States are actually significantly venomous to humans. This species, again, is really not. So she's a safer scorpion to hold. So I'm going to let her rest. And she's done a great job. And I'm going to show you one of her tiny little babies if you guys would like to see. And I have not named the baby, so you guys can actually maybe help me come up with a name today for the baby. That would be pretty exciting. I don't know the gender because it is way too small to tell. But we're going to get her situated here in her travel enclosure. And I'm going to show you one of the tiny babies. I hope you guys can see it here on camera. Bear with me while I pick it up. It's so little. They're super cute. Now remember, when the babies are born, they're actually white because they haven't hardened yet on their exoskeleton. And now she looks, he or she, I don't know, looks just like a little miniature of mama. Super cute. Now as they do age, so let's pick a gender neutral name for this little baby. Now again, she did have 39 babies, but I did not keep all of them. I rehomed some of them because that's a lot of mouths to feed even for us. So there's the tiny baby. You can see how little it is. See if I can maneuver my hand a little bit. So they are actually dimorphic once they get a little bigger. Dimorphic means you can tell the difference between male and female. There's a few features on scorpions in general where you can tell the difference. And on this species, the tail length actually is different between male and female. So they're pretty easy to tell once they grow up, but it takes them a long time to grow up. So that is the baby. And then Nick is asking, how long does it take for them to reach their full size? So they grow very, very slowly. For this species, it can be up to 5 or 10 years, depending on the gender. Good question. That's what I've been told as well. And again, I'm not an entomologist. I'm not really an expert when it comes to scorpions. I'm just an enthusiast who loves to teach you guys all about all animals. And of course, I'm a zookeeper, so I do know a little bit. But yeah, so it's around that. It takes a long time. Ashlyn is chiming in. Hi, Ashlyn. She says, OMG, baby, 39 babies. Yes, they have a lot of babies. So many scorpions and many arachnids and invertebrates in general have a lot of babies because a lot of them get eaten by other animals. They want to make sure and have insurance when it comes to procreating, right? So I'm getting some name suggestions. Keep them coming. Name suggestions are really, really good, and I'll take all of them into consideration. By the way, feel free to keep asking your questions, and I'll do my very best to answer all of them. If I don't get to your question here live, I always go back and answer them manually and typing them in. I'll type them in and answer your question. That's what I'm trying to say. Super cute, right? So again, African flat rock scorpion, you can see how flat they are, especially on the baby. You can see how this baby might be able to, number one, climb on my hand, but they might be able to fit underneath the tiniest of spaces, underneath rocks and fallen limbs and all kinds of things to stay safe. Yeah, it moves. Isn't that cool? This one moves a lot more than mom, I would say. Okay. Oh, that was super cute. Oh, there we go. That's a good shot. So once again, we're talking about scorpions right now, and today we're talking about invertebrates, arachnids, and some other ones that are coming soon. And this is an African flat rock scorpion. Not an endangered species, which is great. Great for them. Not listed on the IUCN Red List as endangered or threatened species. These guys are doing really well in their natural environment. So Nick is also asking, are they nocturnal? Yes, most scorpions are nocturnal, if not all scorpions. I believe they're at least a little bit more active in the nighttime. Yes, this is definitely a nocturnal species. It is way too warm in the daytime for most animals to be out where they are, which is in the deserts of South Africa. They might be also found occasionally in savannas or scrublands, but mostly they're in the desert. Now, one really fun fact about scorpions, especially baby ones and newly born scorpions, is they can go a long time without eating. In fact, it's pretty common for them to go almost a year without eating. Now, that isn't normally ideal for them, but out there in the wild, food might be scarce and they might want to reserve their energy, right? So they're not really going to go out hunting if they don't need to. And once they do find a food, they're going to eat it all up and they'll be good for a while. Now, here at Once in a While, we do offer them food about every other week. Sometimes they eat and sometimes they don't. Okay, guys, we're going to say see you later to our little baby that you guys are going to help me to name. Super cute. I hope you guys liked that. We're going to put him back or her back. We really don't know. It's almost impossible to tell at this age. Okay, unless you're an entomologist and you have some other ways to let me know how I can determine the gender of a tiny baby scorpion. Okay, we're going to move on to another scorpion. It's one last scorpion, and his name is Sting. Oh, you know what? I don't think Sting made an appearance today, so we're not going to see Sting. We'll probably save him for another day, but I do have a lot more friends for you guys to meet, but I do have a scorpion named Sting. He is an emperor scorpion, but he is also a very small baby emperor scorpion, so don't worry. You guys got to see some pretty cool ones today. I do apologize for that, though. I meant to bring him, and I just didn't. So, but don't worry, he's fine. So we are going to move on to some more animals. Let's see, who do we want to learn about next? I think we should talk about tarantulas next. For those of you that are arachnophobes, I do want to give you a warning now. We are going to be learning about arachnids. And we already are. So we're going to be learning all about spiders next. If you guys don't like spiders, I do apologize. Now, we do want to stay open-minded when it comes to learning about animals, right? And we want to make sure you guys know that all animals have a purpose in nature, and they all have, you know, a good reason to be around, right? And they're not all super scary, even though you might not be used to them. That's okay. So it's okay to not like some of the animals that we bring on once in a while, but we want to make sure to respect animals and to leave them alone. If you see a spider, we want to just leave it alone, let them do their thing. But we're going to be meeting our next friend here, and this is Tiptoes. Tiptoes. This is Tiptoes, the pink toe tarantula. Isn't she beautiful? So we believe Tiptoes is a female because she's taken a long time to grow up. That's typical of this species, that they take longer to grow up. They might be girls. Now, we're not 100% sure yet, but based on that and also her coloration, we're thinking female. So I say she when it comes to this spider. This is a South American species. They're also arboreal. You can see she's climbing right up my arm with no problem. This type of spider is arboreal, meaning that they hang out in the trees. They have amazing colorations, and she's also due for another molt. So she will be even more brightly colored once she molts. But look how she walks. That's a very, very kind of distinguished tiptoey walk, which is why we call her Tiptoes. But they're kind of feeling around to see what's going on. Now, tarantulas are covered in little hairs. They're very sensitive to any kind of breeze or wind, maybe even my voice. You can probably hear me talking that way and feel me talking that way. They're very sensitive to everything around them thanks to their hair. She just moved a little quicker there. And those hairs are going to help her find her prey as well as look out for danger. Now, tarantulas in general don't have great eyesight. They do have 8 eyes, which are going to help them kind of sense shadows and movement out there in nature. But their best sense by far is going to be a sense of touch, and that's due to all the hairs all over their body. Now, once again, I don't recommend if you find a spider or a tarantula in your own backyard that you pick it up. It probably won't be as tame as some of the spiders we have here at Once in a Wild. And these are all wild animals as well. They're just used to being held. So we're very patient with them. If they're not comfortable, we give them a break and all of that, and they learn that coming out isn't so scary. I think she's doing a pretty good job. See her beautiful carapace, which is right there on her cephalothorax, which is that first body part there. It's kind of bluish colored, blue-green. And her abdomen is kind of like a maroon color. Can you see that? She's got beautiful coloration. In fact, the scientific name for these guys is versicolor. That's the second word in their scientific name, which means they have different kinds of colors, of course. This type of tarantula, like I said, is found in South America, and they are arboreal, meaning they climb trees. They're very comfortable climbing. They also make really, really neat webbing in the trees where they live, which is more like kind of like a hammock for them to sleep in rather than a traditional spider web like Charlotte's Web style. Tarantulas don't really make spider webs like that. They're going to make more of a cobweb looking web. People are saying hello. I'm just reading comments here. But again, this is Tiptoes, the pink toe tarantula. Now they kind of do have some little pink toes. I'm going to see if she can show everybody her toes. Come here, girl. Can you see the toe? Oh, hello. She's like, hi. The toes are a little bit pink. It's more obvious in person, so I do apologize. And again, she is due for a molt. They have to molt as they grow, and normally she's brighter colored than this. But she does have some cute little pink toes. I think she responded to my breath just now when I said pink. There we go. You can see she moves kind of quickly, but they're not an aggressive species. She's just trying to get away when she feels a little bit nervous. She just walks away. And that is going to be what most tarantulas do. By the way, there are no deadly tarantulas to humans. Tarantulas do have venom, and they have fangs, which they actually kind of keep underneath their chin here. And they have chelicerae, which are kind of like where the fangs are kept here. They're like really thick, almost like a mustache right here. And the fangs are kept underneath until they need to use them, then they swing out this way. But most tarantulas are not really inclined to bite. In fact, almost every animal is like that. A wild animal is usually going to try to get away first for safety. It's kind of an awkward position, y'all, but it's the best way I can show it to you. They're going to get away for safety instead of attacking, because venom to any venomous creature is valuable, and that venom is not limitless. They have to recreate it. So they have to use some energy to recreate that venom, and that goes for all venomous animals, including spiders and maybe even the scorpions we already talked about. There we go. So they're not going to use their venom unless they feel like they really need to. And the venom for a tarantula is much more for the purpose of subduing their prey. So when this type of tarantula finds prey, usually up in the trees, there's nowhere else to go. You're okay. When they're up in the trees, they're going to find some prey. And they'll grab them with their pedipalps, which are kind of like arms and kind of like antenna. And those pedipalps are, well, she's got 8 legs, but then the pedipalps are kind of like extra legs in the front, if you can see. See those little shorter legs in the front? Not the chelicerae, which are where the fangs go, kind of looks like a mustache, but the little legs that are on the side of the chelicerae are her pedipalps, which are kind of like arms and kind of like antenna on an insect. But they don't have antenna because they're not insects. They're arachnids. They've got 2 body parts, 8 legs, and 2 chelicerae and 2 pedipalps. And those pedipalps are going to help them grab their prey once they find it, usually through a sense of touch or maybe even a little bit of sense of smell. They can find their prey. And they're going to grab it with their little pedipalps and bring them in to where their fangs are. And that's when they're going to bite their prey. And that venom is going to then liquefy their prey, like a bug, for example. And then they can drink that bug like a smoothie. Delicious. And that's how a tarantula eats. But of course, she's not going to eat me because I'm way too large. Now, someone's asking, do they eat bugs? Yes, we just talked about that. They do eat bugs. They might even eat other spiders as well. A lot of spiders don't really get along with one another. In fact, scorpions and tarantulas are both solitary animals. They do not live in groups. They're going to avoid each other until it's time for breeding, of course. They'll find one another usually through sense of smell and looking for one another when it's time to mate. By the way, most tarantulas in the United States will have their breeding season in the fall. So you might see male tarantulas crawling around. and looking for mates during that time of year. Why am I having so much trouble? There we go. Now, normally tarantulas here in the United States will actually hide most of the year because they're a little bit nervous to come out. And they're also nocturnal, like the scorpion we talked about. So when you see them running around, that's usually time for mating. And that's what they're really focused on. They're not trying to get you. They're not trying to hurt you. They want nothing to do with humans. In fact, they're probably a lot more scared of us than we are of them, for sure. So people are asking some more questions, which I love. Please keep chiming in with your questions. Becky says, what's her favorite food? So Pink Toe, she is a pink toe. Her name is Tiptoes. Tiptoes is not a picky eater. As long as it's small enough for her to grab and to eat, she will definitely take a meal. Her main food is going to be crickets and a little bit of dubia roaches as well. So a little bit of variety there. Good questions. All righty, guys, you've been awesome so far. I think I'm going to go ahead and let her rest for a minute. And we'll move on to our next tarantula. And speaking of North American species, we do have one here. And she is very famous. She goes on a lot of programs with me because she's extremely docile. And her name is Blondie. We're going to meet Blondie next. Blondie is not an arboreal tarantula like Tiptoes. She is a terrestrial tarantula, which means that she lives on the ground. And she's also a lot calmer and doesn't move very much. So she's very, very easy to present. Here she is. This is Blondie, the Arizona blonde tarantula. Now, she is female. We do know that for sure. And by the way, female tarantulas live a lot longer than male tarantulas. Which way should I move here? There we go. Female tarantulas can live upward of 20 years, more or less, depending on the species, of course. And male tarantulas don't live very long. They can live anywhere from maybe 2 to 5, maybe a little bit longer than 5, depending on the species. So males don't live very long at all, which is kind of sad. I don't like that fact about tarantulas. I wish they all lived a long life. But females are a little larger. Of course, they have to have the baby, so they're a little bit larger. And also, they live a lot longer. And they can have babies more than once. A lot of spiders out there in nature, they can only have babies one time and then they pass away. But tarantulas are different. They can have babies more than once in their lifetime, several times. We got Amanda chiming in. She's really, really excited to see Blondie. It's one of her favorites. She's a friend of mine that really likes her. Now, tarantulas do not give live birth like the scorpions do. Like we talked about Xena earlier, giving live birth to live young and having 39 babies. These guys can have lots and lots and lots of little eggs. So what a tarantula does when they're ready to have babies is they will actually spin with their spinnerets. I think somebody was asking about spinnerets earlier. So these little kind of things down here, it's hard to see them, but they are little spinnerets. They're kind of like little fingers on the end of her bum there on her abdomen. That's what's going to spin those webs, and she's going to make a egg sac, kind of like a little purse for her babies. And spiders, depending on, or tarantulas rather, can have anywhere from 40 to 1,000 babies, maybe even more. I've heard of them having like 1,200 or so babies, depending on the species. That's a lot of babies, a lot of responsibility. Remember, they're not all going to survive, and that's why they do that. Sorry, guys, my hand just gets tired after a minute. So yeah, so they're going to build that little egg sac out of their webbing. And remember, they don't really make a web like Charlotte's web. They're going to make a web that looks more like Halloween webbing, like cobwebs. And they can make a little purse for their babies, and then they lay eggs in there, and up to, you know, however many they're going to have, depending on the species. And then after a while, when mom has been watching over that egg sac, those babies will hatch inside the egg sac and come on out. And then they're just little bitty tiny tarantulas ready for the world. Isn't that awesome? Amanda says, Blondie is a great listener. She really is. You know, tarantulas aren't as scary as people think. Once you get to know them, they're actually very peaceful animals. Very sweet, very quiet, of course. Not too much trouble whatsoever. Tarantulas are actually one of the easier animals we take care of. Not very demanding at all. They just want some food, a little bit of water, and they don't eat very often. Like every other week is about what we feed them, which is more than plenty for a tarantula. So we have a great question from Cedric. Once again, he's chiming in with all the questions. So yes, so this type of tarantula especially, and there are many others that do this type of thing, when they are threatened, sometimes tarantulas don't bite. They will use their hairs for defense. So you can probably see in the back that Blondie here has a little bit of a patch of missing hair. Now, don't worry, she's fine. And in fact, when she molts again, she's going to have a brand new exoskeleton, which won't even show any of that missing at all. But what these tarantulas do when they get nervous is sometimes they will actually rub their back legs on their abdomen, and some hairs will fly into the air. And if you're a predator coming behind, here, I better get rid of this. If you're a predator coming behind the tarantula and getting ready to bite it, pretend I'm a predator, and the tarantula starts rubbing the hairs into the air, you won't even see them, but they're going to be irritating the air. And those little hairs are very, very irritating. It's almost like little tiny eyelashes. Have you ever gotten an eyelash stuck in your eye? It's awful. So imagine 100 hairs in the air that are very irritating to you, and they're going to be in your eyes, and you might be like, never mind, my eyes hurt. I don't want this bug to eat. I don't want to eat this spider. It's too much trouble. So that's what the goal is of the tarantula, to use their hairs for protection. Now, as you can see, she's perfectly fine. She might have done it in the past, but she's due for a molt soon. And tarantulas molt about once a year once they're mature. So anytime now, she'll have a brand new exoskeleton. So Brenda's asking, will the mother leave the babies alone after hatch? Yes, typically yes. She will guard them until they're hatched, for as long as that may be. And depending on the tarantula, depending on the spider, the time of incubation before the babies come out is very variable. So it can be anywhere from a few weeks to almost a year, depending on the spider. But mom will watch over the egg sac, which is pretty noble of her. And then a lot of spiders are actually, they don't survive after they have babies. Tarantulas do survive, but they don't really watch their babies afterwards. In fact, the babies just leave, and they're ready to go on their own and start hunting little bitty bugs on their own. Pretty good question. Now, spiders are one of my favorite animals. And I do understand a lot of people are nervous around spiders. This might be a really, really good way to learn about them, because you're a safe distance away right now with our situation, which, by the way, we are an animal encounter company that normally takes the zoo to you in person. But since we can't right now, we're doing it virtually here on Facebook live stream. And I do want to draw your attention to our scrolling information down below. OnceInAWhile.com is our website where you can find all of our information. Now, by the way, we are going to be doing these live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 p.m. Central Time until further notice. We might change it up once this whole situation gets a little better, right? We can all hope that that's going to be sooner than later. And at that point, we will, of course, change our times. But for now, we're going to be here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Now, also, if you guys enjoy what you see and you want to help us continue our animal programs and feed our animals and survive this whole mess, we do have a Venmo where you can give us tips and donations if you so desire, and if you can. Of course, we appreciate anybody that can actually tip us or give us a donation. That is very much appreciated, and we super appreciate all of our followers regardless. But that does help us to stay in business, of course, because normally we rely on live animal programs and events. But we can't do events right now. Which way? We can't do events right now because of the situation. We can't be with people, which is, very, very sad for us. But we're making the best of it, right? But because we are not really getting paid for this, we do want to draw your attention to the possibility of tipping and donating to the animal, which is very helpful. We also do have our Amazon wish list, which you can find a link to on our website, on our Instagram, and our Facebook. I know those are all places where you can find our Amazon wish list, which have specific items for the animal that you can actually donate and send them right to us. Very, very convenient. What a time to be alive, right? We have such convenient things like Amazon. Pretty cool. So back to you, Arachnids. We're going to say see you later to Blondie. She did an excellent job as always. She's always such a good girl. And we're going to meet another animal ambassador coming right at you in just a moment. So I do actually have some other tarantulas here with me, which are really, really neat, but I will not be holding them. And you might be like, why? Why don't you hold it? Well, some tarantulas are great to hold and some don't like being held, and some are inclined to actually bite. So I have one really, really cool tarantula right here, but I am not going to be holding her with my bare hands. This is a type of tarantula known as this Venezuelan sun tiger. And one of my good friends, Paul, actually donated her to me. So I'm very, very happy to have her. She's been doing very well in our care. So I'm going to kind of bring her up to the camera here. If you can see, she's kind of all the way at the bottom there. See that beautiful, beautiful abdomen has like a tiger stripe pattern on it. And that's why they call them the sun tiger tarantula. You can see how large she is as well. This is another arboreal species living in the trees and quite a large species. You might be able to see her beautiful fangs if I come close enough. And I know there's a glare, I apologize. It might be hard to see. Now, of course, this is not her normal home. She's maybe a little bit like, why am I in here? But we want to show her off a little bit. This is a beautiful Venezuelan species from South America, of course. See that beautiful pattern. So some tarantulas are quite gorgeous to look at. A very large species. She is a adult-sized female. Pretty large indeed. Now her name is Alejandra. We named her after a friend of ours. And again, the Venezuelan sun tiger. And again, I am not holding her because she is absolutely a defensive type of tarantula. Trying to show her off a little bit. She's a very defensive type of tarantula who would be inclined to bite. Now, again, tarantulas are not deadly to humans, but it wouldn't feel great either to get bitten by her. I have one more tarantula that I will not be holding as well. And you might actually know the species already. It's the bird-eating tarantula. Now, bird-eating tarantulas don't really eat birds that often. In fact, it's very, very rare. And the explorers who actually found bird-eating tarantulas only found them eating a hummingbird. So that led them to believe that they typically eat hummingbirds, but they're just like normal tarantulas or typical tarantulas that eat insects and other animals like that. They might eat the occasional lizard or tiny little bird, but it's really not common at all. So this is Benny. See if I can show you without a glare. This is Benny, and he is a salmon pink bird-eating tarantula. Can y'all see him? There we go. That's a good little view of him. And again, I am not going to hold him with my bare hand because this is another very defensive type of tarantula who would be inclined to bite me. So I'm not going to do that. As much as I love you guys, I'm not going to get bitten on camera. No way. You can see how large they are. This is the second largest species of tarantula, but he is a male, so he's not going to be as large as a female would be. Now, this type of tarantula and most types are actually dimorphic, which means we can tell the difference between male and female. Let's see if you can see. I know it's very hard to see on camera, but he does have little hooks underneath some of his front legs. He's got his legs out here like this, and there's little hooks underneath there. He's also a lot more slender bodied than a female would be. Sorry about the glare, guys. This is how we learn what works on camera and what doesn't. He's also a lot more slender bodied than the females would be. So we know he's a boy. Now that does mean, unfortunately, he won't have a very long life expectancy. And I got him as an adult, so I have no idea how old he is. He's molted a couple of times for me. And unfortunately, he is a male, so he'll only live to be around 5 years old. Pretty cool, huh? That is our bird-eating tarantula. It's the salmon pink bird-eating tarantula, the second largest tarantula species in the world. Do we have any other questions, you guys? No more questions. You guys are already tarantula experts. I've got one more amazing tarantula, and then we'll move on to our last animal type. And thank you guys for tuning in today, by the way, and learning all about bugs, arachnids, and all kinds of things. So this here is a baby tarantula. And it's a very, very, very special species. So this species is an endangered species, unfortunately, if you can even see him. Actually, this one I think is a female too. It's a baby. It's right up in there, right there, right where my finger is. See it? Its leg is sticking out for you guys to see. If it moves around again, I will show you a better view. But this is actually the Goody Sapphire tree-dwelling tarantula. This is a tarantula found in India, and they are a critically endangered species. They're only found in one little tiny area in India, and their habitat is disappearing right now. So that is their main reason why they are critically endangered, which means that they are almost gone. So we like to teach you guys about endangered species. We don't have a ton of endangered species here at Once in a While, but when we have them, I like to highlight them. Now, how can we help endangered species? It's right there. It's where my fingernail is right there. Tiny little baby. This species of spider gets about as large as the Venezuelan sun tiger. So that tarantula will be about this big when it grows up. Pretty cool. And I'll keep you guys updated on its growth. They get about this big. Like, not this big, this big. Pretty cool. And this is another arboreal species like the Venezuelan sun tiger and the pink toe. Now, endangered species exist all over the planet and they do need our help. And how can we help them? Especially now being cooped up in the house. We can't even go anywhere to help these animals. So what are we going to do? Well, one really cool thing that you can do every single day is just making really good choices in your life, making responsible choices. And some of those choices are as easy as choosing reusable straws. Here's one. Here's a reusable straw right here. A reusable, what is this? Cup to be able to drink my water. Instead of using a one-time plastic straw and a one-time plastic water bottle, for example, that's a really great way to help out wildlife all over the world, right? So recycling when we can. If we can't necessarily say no to those one-use plastic items, we can say, you know, we're going to recycle it instead. I lost my train of thought for a hot second. We can recycle those plastic items instead, and as much as we can. Recycling is a really, really big way we can help animals. We can also do things like not throwing trash on the ground where animals can come in contact with that trash. Now, this type of spider that we talked about relies on the rainforest for their survival and forested areas of India. So taking away their habitat by, say, chopping down trees for paper is a big deal as well. So there's nothing wrong with using any resource within reason, as long as it's a sustainable resource. We want to just make sure and be responsible with our purchases and with what we're doing and our choices in life. And of course, also you can donate to conservation funds, donate to your local zoo, donate to anything that's helping animals all over the world because they really need the help. And zoos right now, not just our mobile zoo once in a while, are suffering, but other zoos that rely on visitors to come and purchase tickets are also suffering right now because of the current circumstances. So donating to your local zoo, shout out to San Antonio Zoo, one of my favorite places, and our local zoo here in San Antonio. That's a place you can donate to, and they do have conservation funds to help animals like the Goody Sapphire tree-dwelling tarantula. So again, a critically endangered species. So moving on to our final animal, and you guys have been so patient waiting for the final animal. If you guys don't like this animal, I totally understand. This is one of the few animals that I'm actually a little bit nervous around. Initially, anyway, I had to get used to them, and especially their close cousins. So I do have several of these here at Once in a While. In fact, I have 9 total adults and many, many babies of these. And this is another invertebrate. It's an insect, Madagascar hissing cockroaches. Now, these are not typical kitchen cockroaches that you might see in your own backyard or in your home, coming into your house. They are very, very different. Madagascar hissing cockroaches come from Madagascar, of course. And they do hiss when they feel nervous. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get one of them to hiss, but we can try. Are they hissing? Not sure. We can try another one. So I've got 9 here with me. Now, typically, the males will hiss a little bit more often than females. They might be a little bit too relaxed to hiss, which is totally fine. But they do hiss using their sphericals. So do you see all those little dots that are right here on their body? So by the way, insects have 3 body parts. Arachnids have 2 body parts. That's a big difference. And insects also have antennae and 6 legs. So these guys are no different. I'm going to try to show you their legs. Here comes a roach to the camera. Here's your warning. There are 6 legs on this roach. There's a bit of mulch on him. And there are 3 body parts. I know it's very hard to see. Whoa, it's getting wiggly. So there are 3 body parts. So here is the abdomen. Here is the thorax. And he's also got a head. So it's not the head for a arachnid, like a tarantula, is the cephalothorax. So their thorax and head are all kind of one piece. His head is separate. There's a little head and antenna connected to the head. See the head? And this right here is just kind of like an armor that protects his head, but it's a separate body part, separate segment from the head. So head, thorax, and abdomen. Those are the 3 body parts of an insect. And also insects have these beautiful antennae. You can see the antenna? There's his antenna. Trying to figure out what's going on. So antennae are going to be kind of like feelers, right? They feel the world around them. They're going to sense smells and they're going to sense touch and all kinds of things. But those are your main differences. And insects, for the most part, have sphericals, which are those little dots on their abdomen. The little dots on either side of his abdomen, those are how he breathes. So he doesn't breathe with his mouth and head, he breathes with the abdomen. Pretty cool. And they're sphericals. Whoa. Don't worry, guys. I have a nice carpet under here, and these guys are very, very tough, so don't you worry. He's fine. These guys have an amazing exoskeleton, which acts like armor. He just decided to take a dive. So anyway, they do have those sphericals, and they can hiss with them, as well as breathe with them. This guy's going to get a little bit of a rest. He's ready to go back home. So this one, I'll show off him next. So pretty cool. So why do they hiss? Does anybody know why they hiss? Have I lost you guys? Everybody's just enamored and not asking any more questions. So these guys will hiss for a very specific reason. And it's the same reason why any other animal might hiss as well. So a lot of animals will hiss when they're in a bad mood, like a cat, right? So cats will hiss when they're in a bad mood. And that's going to tell other animals to stay away. Stay away. That's what a hiss means usually. So in Madagascar, where these guys are going to be found in the wild, they are a very, very common food source to other animals, including lemurs. Lemurs actually eat these guys pretty regularly. Very, very common food of lemurs. Let's see how many I can hold at once. And the lemur is not really fond of snakes. So lemurs have a very specific snake to watch out for, and it's a type of boa constrictor called a Dumeril's boa. That's one type of snake found in Madagascar that might prey upon that lemur. So the Madagascar hissing cockroach will attempt to sound like a snake, the lemur's enemy, right? So that's going to help them stay safe. So if a lemur's coming down to eat one of these roaches and all of a sudden it goes, sss, they might say, whoa, that might be a snake. So I'm going to jump away, as a lemur does. They kind of jump like that. And they're going to get away from the hissing noise. But little did they know, all along, it was just a roach the whole time. Now, these guys do have many babies when they have babies as well. As you may know, roaches do have a ton of babies when they have them. But they are not egg-laying animals. This type of roach has live babies. And when they give live birth, they have anywhere up to 30 to 60 babies at once, sometimes less, depending on what's going on. But mom will have those babies, and then this type of animal is actually very social. We talked about the arachnids being solitary and not really hanging out with their own kind at all. In fact, arachnids will eat each other sometimes if they're hungry enough. But roaches are very, very social. Look at those beautiful antennae. She's got beautiful antennae. Roaches are very, very social and live in great big colonies all together for safety. They're also a nocturnal animal, though. They come out mostly at night. Now, this type of roach is not known to be a pest like other roaches. They are not dirty animals. In fact, they have their own little onboard cleaning crew, which are little itty bitty mites that they carry around with them at all times. And those little tiny mites, which are almost not microscopic, but very, very tiny, very, very little. Those little mites will actually clean them all the time, eat off their dead skin, and clean off any kind of leftover food that they're eating. By the way, these guys are detritivores, which means that they eat dead and decaying plant matter. So they are not going to be a type of roach that would eat like anything and everything, although they could if they really needed to, if they needed to find a food resource. And not to say they can't eat some decaying animal matter as well occasionally, but typically they're going to eat nothing but decaying plants. And that's actually going to help the earth stay nice and healthy. So these guys are not known as pest animals in Madagascar where they're from. They're actually quite revered, and they're even a delicacy for people to eat there, I believe. I could be wrong, but I've heard that. So they're not a pest. They're not dirty. They can't fly, so they're nothing like the roaches that we see here that fly and scare everyone, which I'm one of those people that gets scared by roaches for sure when they fly. And they don't really move as fast as a typical roach either. So they're totally different. And also this type of roach, like I said, is not going to be carrying diseases. They're not super dirty. They're pretty clean, etc. And they do keep the earth healthy by helping the soil. So since they actually will eat the dead and decaying plant matter, after they use the restroom, all of that comes out as fertilized soil. So that soil will be very, very healthy for all the plants growing back. So they're very, very, very important to the natural environment. And that, of course, is kind of the theme today, is maybe learning about animals that are a little bit different than us. Some of those animals might have 6 legs, 3 body parts, and antenna. And some of those animals might have 8 legs, 2 body parts, and no antenna. They have pedipalps instead, if you're a spider. But that's going to be kind of like, I mean, an animal that's totally different than us. And that's kind of something I always like to iterate here on Once in a Wild TV, I guess, Facebook Live, any of my animal programs. When we talk about animals that are different than us, that doesn't mean that they're bad. We definitely want to give animals a chance. We want to learn about them as much as we can. And don't judge them just because they're different than us, right? Look at those beautiful 6 legs and beautiful antenna. Can you see the antenna? There we go. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever about any of our invertebrates that we met today? Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. I had a lot of really good questions about the spiders, but the roaches are getting no love. What's up with that? Now, roaches, again, are not my favorite animal in general. These guys took me a while to get used to. A lot of people ask me what animals frighten me. Roaches are definitely one of them. So I had to kind of get used to holding them, but they're really not so bad once you get to know them, just like most animals. And they're definitely not an animal that can hurt you or bite you or even really scratch you. They do have really, really amazing legs with little claws on the end of them that can climb up the surface of glass. They're amazing climbers. And but other than that, they are pretty harmless. They can hiss to scare away their enemies, but they're not really going to bite or hurt anyone. Well, if you guys don't have any questions, that's okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry we didn't have any cuddly animals today, but I wanted to go ahead and give our invertebrates a chance today so you guys can learn all about them. And our next episode, I'm sure we'll have some more cuddly animals back on. You guys are interested. If you guys want to drop me some comments down below and let me know which animals you would like to meet here on Facebook Live, that would be very, very helpful. And I try to kind of theme it every time, but sometimes I just kind of bring whomever I feel like that day. But if I have some suggestions, that would help me out a lot. Oh, I'm getting so many comments now. I wonder if they all came in late. So we have so many comments and questions. People are saying, wow, they look really big. But exoskeletons, my goodness, I think they're all coming in late. I apologize, you guys, if I didn't get any of your questions in time. Let's see what we have. Okay, here's a good one. Amanda says, do they hiss when they're stressed out or as a habit or mating ritual type thing? A lot of questions in one, and that's fine. So yes, to all of that. So they do hiss primarily as a self-defense. So hi. I think I'm a roach. I hiss sometimes. Same girl, same. So yes, so they do hiss primarily for self-defense. So if a predator's coming after them, like that lemur we talked about, they hiss, scares away the predator. Hopefully they can get away, get underneath something, run away, whatever they need to do. They also hiss for a mating ritual. So by the way, these guys are dimorphic, which means we can tell the difference between male and female very easily. I'm going to try to find you a really good example. I've got a beautiful male. He tends to be a little moody, but I'll show him to you. Let me see. Maybe he'll hiss for us. And also when they're moody, like you asked before, for sure. They might hiss to say, hey, leave me alone. But that's fine. Okay, here's a good example of a female too. So I've got a male here. No, we'll do this one. Bear with me, bear with me. So this male here, this one's the male. See if I'll hiss. Nope. No luck. No luck. He's just like, hey, stop. I don't want to hiss today. This is our male, and he's got these little horns on top of his head, right next to his thorax, right next to his head. Not really on his head. That's his beautiful head with the antenna on it. There he is. Hello. And on the part of the thorax, which is closest to the head, which is like an armor for him, like a helmet, he's got these two beautiful little humps. See? Hump one, hump two, hump one, hump two. And those are little horn-like projections, which only exist on males. And then females, goodness gracious, and then females are going to have a very smooth thorax right there. So that's a pretty smooth by comparison. She's got teeny tiny little bumps, but nothing much. Little bumps. This is a much more better example, I think. Sorry, they're moving as animals do. So this one, that would be a girl right there. Not much in the way of little bumps. So that's how we can tell male from female. And the males will often hiss a different kind of hiss, and I have yet to really hear it or notice the difference, but they will hiss to attract mates. So that's going to be another way that they're talking to each other as well. So kind of like a little serenade. Very cute. Ha. Amanda says it's all fun and games until they get wings. I agree for sure. Okay. So docile, yes. And yes, they are natural recyclers. So we talked about recycling earlier. The Madagascar hissing cockroaches, since they're detritivores, they eat all that decaying plant matter that's already dead on the forest floor where they come from in Madagascar. They eat it, it gets processed through their body and comes out the other end, as all animals do. And that will come out as healthy soil for the environment. So very, very good observation. They are definitely nature's recyclers. Ricky is chiming in. Do they smell bad? Nah, not really. They really don't smell like anything, at least not to me. Now, all animals may have a little bit of a smell, but by comparison to mammals and other types of animals, all of these arachnids and insects, guys, it's been a long day. All these insects and arachnids don't really have a smell, so they are very, very clean. Okay, guys. You guys have so many good comments and questions. And of course, I'm going to get back to your questions if I didn't have time to answer them right here on live stream. It's a little bit, we're running a little bit long now, so we might as well go ahead and close. But I really appreciate this this attention that y'all are giving us and the support that y'all are giving us. It means the world to us, of course. And we hope to see you again for the next one. We're going to continue our time at 3:30. Let me know how you're liking the new time. We're going to say hi to Tiptoes again. Let me know how you're liking the new time at 3:30, and then we just go until whenever we feel like quitting. Usually about 4:30 or so. It's about 4:35 now. And we just kind of hang out with you guys, do a nice Q&A, let you guys meet some of our animals in a nice casual way, a little animal encounter. We hope you guys are enjoying the 3:30 time. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is what we're going to aim for right now, until further notice, of course, Central Time, and of course, we're based in San Antonio. And again, we are an animal encounter company that normally brings the zoo to you in person. We can't do that right now, so we're doing that virtually. If you would like to donate to our cause, you can find our Venmo at Once in a Wild. On Venmo is how you can find us to donate and to give us a tip if you like what you see today. And we also have our Amazon wish list, of course, with specific items that we need for the animals and to help us keep doing what we do and stay going, even though we're under these new circumstances. Well, Tiptoes is waving goodbye, so I guess I will too. We hope to see you guys next time here on Wednesday at 3:30 Central Time. And we hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay safe, stay home, stay in your shell to be well, and we'll see you guys again. Bye.